This is our first course on the channel. So in this course, we are trying to learn Python in an hour. And now this is not the whole Python. This is not everything that Python has to offer, but this is just for you to start and, get your hands dirty with coding in Python. And from here, you can build on the skills that you learn from this video will make you feel like and understand why Python is such an easy language and why it's the gateway to programming. Okay, so the first thing is we are going to download Python itself, of course. So we are heading on to the python.org website, okay, /downloads. So it has already detected my device. I'm on a Mac, so it says Mac OS. So we are going to just click on the download button, and then that's it. You go here, you download it, and you just wait for it to load. All right, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and click on continue, continue, and I'm gonna of course agree to the license, otherwise I can use it. Install software. Now I already had Python on my device, but due to or for the sake of this video, I decided to do it again. All right, so yes, that is it. It's downloaded. That's the installer. I don't need the installer anymore, so I'm just gonna go ahead and close this, and then I'm gonna move the installer to the bin because I don't need it anymore. And that's it. So the next thing that I'll do is to make sure that Python has been properly downloaded on my device. So I have a terminal here, but I'm gonna just quit and open it again. I'm just gonna open the terminal again, the new terminal. And if you're on Windows, you should be using PowerShell for this, okay? But if you're on a Mac, it's okay. Just use the terminal and type Python 3. Yeah, so I can see the version here. This is to show that Python has been properly installed on my device. And then the next thing we have to do is to, of course, we need a place where we can write our code. Just like you'd use Word for writing text. When it comes to programming, you need IDEs, okay? So the IDE we'll be using is VS Code. So we're gonna go ahead and search for VS Code. I already have VS Code on my device as well. So I'm not gonna download it. It has already detected my device. It says download for macOS. Very simple. I'm gonna go ahead and search for VS Code, and that is VS Code. I already had it installed. This to be honest, this is my favorite IDE, I can tell you. Okay, this one of my favorite IDEs. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on open, and then I'll create a new folder, but I want to do it on my desktop. So I'll click on desktop and then new folder, and then I'll give it a name. So let's say Python tutorial. Create, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and open it. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So the next thing we have to do is to create a Python file. The extension for a PDF is maybe my file.pdf, all right? So the extension for a Python file is .py, all right? So we're gonna go ahead and create a file with that extension at the end. So for example, app.py, all right? In every project that you do, it is very important to put in comments, especially when you are collaborating with others, but not just that, but also for yourself. In Python, if you want to leave notes that are not going to run when you run your application or your file, this is text that will be ignored. They're called comments. They're referred to as comments. Okay, so this is how you write comments. This is the official way of writing comments in Python. All right, so my comment, this code is not going to run, whereas of course this is not comment, so this one will run because this is proper Python code. Okay, so this would run if I run it, right? But this part wouldn't run. Okay, so let's give it a try. Let's go to the terminal. I like running my code on the terminal, and let's just do Python app.py. Sorry. So you see hello, we have hello here, but this part of this note or this text in the file is not running. The Python language, we have different type of variables, and first of all, variables are just containers where we store data. Okay, so just keep it in mind for now that variables are containers where we store data. So variables can have different types of data, like the value stored in the variables can have different data types. Okay, so let's say I would want to store my age, I could write age and then a number, right, for my age, and that is referred to as an integer. And here we can actually make use of a comment integer. Okay, so this is a whole number. A whole number is referred to as an integer, and that is my age. Okay, so we also have like floating points, and those are used for calculations, where there is like for decimal numbers, right? So this is, for example, 19.9, and this is referred to as float. Okay, and then we have like variables that are used to contain, let's say, someone's name. Yeah, so we could say my name, and let's do this. My name equals to mistake. Okay, so there we have my name, and it's referred to as a string. Okay, so this is a string. This is a string. And then we have like, let's say there are situations in which we would want to like know whether something is happening. For example, let's say you are building an application, okay, and it needs internet connection. All right. So let's say if the connection is on, you could create a variable called is on. Okay. Maybe you do like it's on. Sorry, is on, and then you can give it two values, either true or false. All right, so this is referred to, this type of variable is referred to as a boolean. As a boolean. Okay, this is a boolean. So imagine having like a chat app, all right, and then you are like, oh, is this person online? You could have like a variable, okay, called is online. And then if the person is online, it could be true or it could be false if the person is not online. And this is also a Boolean, all right? So the Boolean has two different types of forms. It can either be true or false. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction to variables. There are so much more to, like, there's so much more to variables, but this is just an intro to variables. This is the kind of variables that we have in Python. We do have other types of variables, but these are the main ones that you'll be using as a beginner in most of your project or applications. Okay. So even though I'm telling you the data types of the values that those variables carry, for you to easily know which value a variable carry by itself, you could easily do this. So let's say check in values. You could use this um, function called type. Okay, so this print function is just to like, it's just for us to like illustrate or for us to show what we are like, let's say the contents that are stored in a variable. Okay, it's just for us to print on the screen, but the function that can help you check the data type of a variable is the type function. Okay, so you open a you write the word type and then open brackets, and then you go ahead and then just put the variable in it. So let's do for age. We can just go ahead and write that again. Print brackets and then type brackets, and then you write, let's do it for price as well. Let's do the same thing for my name. Okay, so print, in fact, let's do it for all of them. So brackets and then the variable my name. There you have it. And then let's do it for, we could just copy, but I want us to like get used to typing. So let's do is on. Okay, so since this is a boolean, I will not do it for is online. All right, so let's go ahead and run our code. So there, so you can see the type of variables that we have. All right, so we have an integer, we have the float, which is the variable price, and then we have a string, which is the variable my name, and then we have a boolean, which is shortened as bool. Okay, when you're checking its type, it's shortened as bool, but this is, yeah, is the bool, right? Which is a boolean. Okay, so that is it. That's how you can check the type of a variable. So this is all about us taking a variable and changing its type. Okay, so for example, we have a variable called num string. Okay, and then this number right here is a string. Okay, and we can, how do we know? We can check its type by doing print, then the type, and then num string. Okay, so let's run that and see the type of our variable. So we see it's a string. Okay, in fact, let me delete all those ones so you, let's run it again. Yeah, so we see that num string is a string. Okay, but we would want to change it from a string to an integer, and I'll explain why in a minute. So we can do another one called num int, and then say that num int is equal to the integer, okay, the integer conversion, okay, of the num string. All right, so let's do this. Let's remove this for now, and then let's go ahead and print it. We can just print this now. So print the type. We should print the type of num int now. All right, after the conversion. So let's go ahead and run our code. Okay, so now we see that this is now an integer. In fact, let's clear it so we don't have stuff from the previous part. Okay, so yeah, so you see that num int, we printed that num int, we printed the type of num int and it shows as an integer. That is because we did a type conversion. It's very important in every application that the user gives us some data to work with. Okay, so how do we do that in Python? First of all, we'll ask someone their name, and then we'll store that value in a variable called my name. So let's create a variable called my name, and then we will use this input function. This is how it looks. So input, just type the word input and then parenthesis, and then of course we are asking like with a string, right? So we would ask, we'll put the double quotes because we're about to write a string, and then we can say, what is your name? Okay, what is your name? And then we will print their name. All right, so that's what we'll do in this one. So let's do that. Okay, so it says, what's your name? Let's change name. Let's say Sarah. And then it says Sarah. Okay, that's it. All right, so this is a very important topic in Python. We need to be able to format our strings. Okay, so the topic we're touching is called string formatting. Okay. All right, so this is for us to have our strings more readable. Okay, we need to format our strings in a way that we can dynamically add our variables or even functions, which we'll touch on in later videos, into our strings, into our text. All right, so far we've been just printing. For example, let's say we've been just printing in this way and then just having a string, maybe this string, like let's say this is a string. Okay, we've just been doing this, but we've not actually had our variables together with our strings, like in one print statement. Okay, so how do we do that? Like, how can we put our variables together with our strings? So there are several ways of doing that in Python, and I'm going to show you my favorite way first. So that is the F strings, okay? It's known as F strings. So F strings. So how do you do? What you do is you, for example, write a text, all right? And then you start with an F here. That's to like, that's an indication that this phrase or this string that I'm about to write here uh, can accept like variables embedded into the string, okay? So we do that by putting in, for example, let's create a variable. We'll create a variable called name, all right? Name equals to, let's say, the input of what the user will give us. So let's say, what is your name? Okay, let's have it there. And whatever they say their name is, we would want to say hello to them. Okay, so we can say hello, and then maybe would have it like hello, then comma. Okay, and we do this curly braces. Those are the curly braces. This here are curly braces. So hello, and then we want to have the variable here. All right, so hello, whatever their name is. And then you continue, it is nice to meet you. Okay, we could actually put the comma like after this. So we could say hello, let's say Rob, it is nice to meet you. All right, so let's go ahead and run this code and see how it turns out. So what is your name? We said Rob, so let's use Rob. So hello Rob, it is nice to meet you. Okay, another way of doing this would be with concatenation. So string concatenation. All right, so this is by us using the plus sign in our string, okay, in our phrase. So we wouldn't need like the F part, we wouldn't need like this F here. We would just say, let's just print the same statement, but using the concatenation. So we'd say, hello, and then we would put in the user's name by adding like it to, like by having a plus sign here, okay, and then we would say name, and then another plus sign, and then would have it like, yeah, with the same thing. So we could just copy this like that and paste it here. So say hello name, it is nice to meet you, right? Like hello Rob, it is nice to meet you. So we're practically doing the same thing, just that in this case we are using something known as concatenation. Right, it's not my favorite way of doing things, but it's still going to give you the same result. Okay, but that is definitely not my my favorite way of doing things. All right, so let's see what happens. Let's run the app. Rob. Okay, so we even have some issues here. Let's say, hello, Rob. It is nice to meet you. Let's give it some space here. Okay, yeah. So if you use the F string, you wouldn't have to be thinking about, putting space here and there and all that. But with the concatenation, you would have to. So in Python, based on what your user gives you as an input, you would like to take an action. So let's say someone is not up to 18. There is an action which we would like to take based on their age. We put in here like the if keyword. If the age, okay, is equal, all right, or greater than 18, then this person, we could say that this person is an adult. Yeah, we could just print here and give back an information to the person saying you are grown enough. Okay, so imagine they have to like be part of let's say an association or something, and it's required for them to like be 18 or above, then this would be a good use case. So we'll say elif, we write this elif, it means else if, all right? Else if, right? Elif means else if. Elif age, okay, is exactly equal to, let's say, 17, all right? One more year to go. Okay, who could tell the user that? I know that would be so annoying. Imagine you have to like be part of a club or an association, and they're like, oh, one more year to go. Annoying. Yeah, so the last option is else. So if the user puts in any other age that doesn't like even, that is not like 18 or above, or that is not exactly to 7, that is not exactly equal to 17, okay, it's not equivalent to 17, well then else in that case would say you are not there yet. Okay, so meaning the person is a minor. You are still a baby. Yeah, let's piece our user off. So this is the structure in which you use an if statement, okay? Right? This conditional statement, this is how you use it. So you have like your if keyword, like if age, like, and then you put in like your condition, and then you use the elif if there is another option, and then the else is like the last option, okay? Right, so let's run this and see what happens to our user, okay? Right, so let's see. Let's start by being a minor. All right, so it says you are not there yet, you are still a baby. Okay, let's run it one more time, and this time will be above 18. Let's see what they'll say. You are grown. You are grown enough. So that is it, like guys. So let's, yeah, and then the else, the elif option. Let's say our age is exactly 17. One more year to go. Oh, all right. So that's how you use the if statement or the conditional statement in Python. So this, I could say, structures, all right, they are meant for you to be able to store multiple values. So let me just write it down. Store multiple values. Okay, so that's the use of a list and also the use of a tuple. Let's say we would want to create a list of fruits. So what we do is we go ahead and type the word fruits. If that's the name we want for a variable, of course, you could choose whatever name you want. And then, or for a list in this case, not a variable, list. And we go ahead and put in our first fruit, maybe an apple. And then with a comma, we go separating them. And then maybe we want a kiwi. I love kiwi. We could go for cherry. We could also go for avocado. We could actually go for which other fruit do I know? All right, let's skip it to this one. Or maybe grapes. I love grapes. Okay, so yes, all those fruits, okay, are stored in a list. So how do we know what type this variable is? Okay, like how do we know that this is a list? So we could actually go ahead and print the type. Remember from the other videos, we learned how to print the types of our variables. So let's go ahead and run this. Let's clear our terminal and let's just run the application. So it says it's a list. Okay, so this, the class of this fruit right here is a list. Okay, so this is a list and this is how it looks in Python. If we want to like add another fruit to like the end of this list, we could go ahead and use a word like a keyword called append. Okay, so it's a way for us to add fruit to the end of our list. So let's say we want an orange, one of my favorites as well. So we could have that, and then we could go ahead and print the fruits list. So let's do that. Oh, you see we have an orange there. All right. So the difference between a tuple and a list is that a list is mutable. Okay, changes can be made to it. The not to a tuple, all right, it's immutable. So we can say animal, and then here it uses a parenthesis, and here it uses square brackets. Okay, so the tuple uses parenthesis, right? So let's say animals, deer, and maybe I love rabbits. Okay, so we have two animals here, and these guys are in a tuple, right? How do we know they are actually in a tuple? We could go ahead and print. We could just copy this here now. Take this and put it here, and then just change this to animals. So we have animals there, and we could go ahead and print our animals. So print the animals that we have in here, animals. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we see that for the first part, this is a tuple, all right? This is coming from this statement here. It says that this container in which we have our animals stored is a tuple, okay? And that these are the animals in our tuple. So we saw lists and tuples in the last video, and in this video we are going to have a look at dictionaries and sets. So dictionaries, let's start with dictionaries. So dictionaries are data types or data structures rather that so dictionaries are data structures that store key value pairs, okay? So what do we mean by key value pairs? So let's say we create a variable here, or rather a dictionary called person, okay? And we're going to start like information about this person, okay? So we go ahead and do our curly braces, and we give it like some quotation here, some quotes, and we say the name of the person. Let's say, oh, the name of the person is Vera, okay? And then we could say that the person's age, we could say the person's age is 20, all right? And then we could say, the person lives, so we could say country, for example, another variable called country. And we could say the person lives in a country called Sweden, all right? So let's just have it like this for now. Okay, so these are key value pairs. So you could see that we have a value and then we have a key. We have a value and then we have a key. So that is what is meant by key value pair, okay, for dictionaries. And how do we know that this is a dictionary? As we did with the other ones, we could go ahead and check the type, okay, and make sure that this is actually a dictionary. So we could say type of person, and the type of person should be printed, all right? And what else could we do? We could actually just print the person's name to see what the person's name is. So we'll go ahead and write the name of the container, which is person, and we give it a square bracket, and we give it like quotation marks, and then we just want the name, all right? So this should give us Vera, okay? So let's go ahead and run our application and see what happens. So yeah, it says that the type of this dictionary, obviously it's a dictionary, but for us to be sure of, like, as a beginner, you would want to know like the types of, your data structures You can mix up sets and dictionaries and top. It's very normal as a beginner. It happens. So if you want to just be sure of the type, just use this type method or function and check the type. Okay. So we see that the type is a dict, shortcut for, they're just shortcut in dictionary. All right. And we also have another way of storing multiple values, and we said they are called sets. Okay, so sets. So what is what is unique about a set? What is the thing? Why do we have sets? So sets do not actually store duplicates. Okay, so let's say you have a set. Let's create a set. Let's say call it unique numbers. Okay, and then this is equal to our curly braces, and then let's just have to like twice, and we can have other numbers as well. Let's say 8 and 9. Yeah, so this is a set. Okay, this is a set. This is not a dictionary. All right, this is not a dictionary. This is a dictionary, and this is a set. Okay, you see that this doesn't have key value pairs. All right, so this has key value pairs. That's the difference. And this guy is a set. And how do we know? We could also check the type. We could just go ahead and use the method we've been using before and go ahead and print the type of unique numbers. All right, and then we are interested in seeing how this will be printed itself. So let's have a separate print statement for it and just call unique numbers. Okay, so unique numbers. Let's see what happens when we run our code. Okay, so we can see that we had two twos. That sounds weird, but we had two twice in our set when we created the set, but when we printed the set, it just gave us one of it. That's because sets do not allow duplicates. How else would we be able to do any type of operation in Python or any programming language without operators? So in Python, we have different type of operators. We have the arithmetic operators, we have the comparison operators, and we also have the logical operators. So let's start with the arithmetic operators. Okay, they're just like the arithmetic operators you know from school. Let's just go ahead. All right. So our arithmetic operators include plus, minus, like addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So let's start with creating a variable. Let's say num1. Let's say num1 is equals to, should we say 10? And then num2. Num2 should just be the double of num1. All right. Okay. We would want to use the addition operator on them. And how do we do that? We just maybe create another variable, and then we can call it addition. We can call it addition. Sorry, addition is equal to num1 plus num2. Okay. We could actually just, you could still like also use it directly like on a number and say and do this. You could do this. This is totally valid, but I just want to like keep reusing the variables. That's why we created them in the first place. So let's just take this out. All right, so addition is num1. So let's print that and see what happens. We'll print the variable addition. Let's go ahead. Okay, so we have 30. All right, so if we add 10 to 20, of course we get 30. All right, and we could do the same with subtraction. Okay, so let's just go ahead and write it. Let us not be lazy. Let's create another variable called subtraction, and yeah, num2 in this case, minus num1. Okay, and this is subtraction. All right, so we just go ahead and do another print statement, and we'll put in subtraction. Okay, so let's go ahead and run our application. So yeah, we see that 20 minus 10 is of course 10. Okay, let's go ahead and do the same but for multiplication. All right, so this time we're going to multiply. And how do we do that in Python? Multiplication. And so we call it multiplication, a variable, and then we'll do num1. It doesn't matter, like, of course, whether we put num1 first or num2 first, just like we do in school. Okay, position doesn't matter when it comes to multiplication. Still the same rule in Python as well. So let's do multiplication, and also we run yes. So that is the answer. Okay, we can also use the division. All right, so let's just call this one division equals to, let's do num2 divided in num1, and then we go ahead and print it as well, and we go and we get our division here. Let's go ahead and yeah, so that is our regular division. But now for the division, you see that it comes as 2.0, right? If we would want to like do the same thing without it being 2.0, like we want it to be like a whole number, then we'll have to use the double division sign. Okay, so we can call this floor division. It's known as floor division. Okay, so we just add the word floor here and add the word floor, and just go ahead and put this here, and we run our application. Okay, so now we get like a whole number, which is 2. So if you want to like get a decimal point, you can use the one, like you can use just one division sign. And if you want like a whole number, then you go ahead with this. All right, so the one that is, I think, very unfamiliar to a lot of people, especially if you've not been programming before, is the modulus. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. Modulus is equals to num2, and then the percent sign. Okay, take the percent sign, and then num1, and we go ahead and print it. Okay, so here, this is supposed to give us 0. Okay, yeah, because when you divide 20 and into 20 into 10, right? Remember the values. Okay, num2 has the value of 20 and num1 has the value of 10. So let's just make this a bit more clearer with a like a normal number, so you can see the number itself. So let's just type 20, and let's just type 10. Okay, we could have typed 2 as well. It should also give us the same thing. But yeah, so I'll explain in a minute what is actually happening. So with the modulus, right, when you divide 20 into 10, right, there's nothing left. So that's why it's giving you 0. But if you do, let's say, 20 modulus 11, let's see what happens now. Yes, because it's not divided, like 20 is not divided into 11 perfectly, evenly. Okay, so you have the remainder, like you have some remainder left, which is in this case 9, right? So let's just take another number. Let's just say 2. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it still gives you 0, because when you take 20 and you divide it, like let's say you have 2 people that you divide 20 stuff for, each of them will get 10, right? If you want to divide it evenly. So there should be no remainders, right? So that's why we get 0 there. The last one we will look at is the exponentiation, all right? All right, so yeah, okay. So this is practically like our exponent that would do. So you have like the 2, like the 4 above the 2, all right? That's how you would write it in normal math. But in Python, you write it with the two asterisks, okay? Okay, so these two numbers, if we want to like compare them, how do we do that in Python? Let's say print num1 is less than num2. Let's see what happens. We run our application. It says true, okay, because num1 is less than num2, right? Let's go ahead and copy this and just change the sign. It says false because num1 is not greater than 2, okay? So what if we had the equals? What would happen? It also says false because num1 and num2 are not equal. And then funny one is, what if we had this sign like saying explicitly like num1 is not equal to num2? Okay, this means not equal, all right, with exclamation. So let's see what happens. Let's say it's true because of course num1 is not equal to num2. So guys, in the previous video, we checked out comparison operators and also arithmetic operators in the previous one. So now we're looking at logical operators. The three that we have are AND, OR, and NOT, okay? So how do we use them? So let's just say we have a variable. Let's just keep it simple. I don't like doing my variables like this, but let's just set this initially to true, okay? And let's just do another one, y, and set it initially to false, okay? So these are two variables, and we would have our print statement here, checking them with our logical operators. So we'll say x and y. This is supposed to give us false. Why is it going to give us false? Because for us to have something that says true, we'll need to have both variables to be true. Okay, so we need to have both variables as this, as true, for us to run the code and get a true. But if we have one false and one true, it's going to give us false when we use the AND operator, logical operator, okay? So the AND, we could say the AND, this one. So we could say true if both true, else false, okay? And then for the OR, either one is true, okay? Either one is true for it to be true, okay? And both false for it to be false, okay? So let's try that and see. Let's change this to the OR operator. We have one variable that is true and the other one that is false. So let's see what happens. So it says true because either one is true, right? And when do we get it to say false? It says false when they are both false. We have x set as true, and this operator just gives us the invert like of it. So not true, then it's false. You get it? And then if it's the y, then this is going to give us true. Okay, so it's giving us the contrary of it. So we could say this gives contrary of true or false. We need to be able to iterate through data structures. And how do we do that in Python? Well, we have loops. And the main ones are the for loop, and also the while loop. Okay, so let's start with the for loop. So let's assume we have our fruit list, okay, that we had earlier. So we could say fruits. This is a list, remember, this is not a set, not a tuple, this is a list. So let's say we have kiwi, and we say we have grapes. Let's just say we have apples. Okay, so these are our fruit list. So we have 3 fruits in here, all right? And we would want to like print all of them. I mean, we could go ahead and print all of them and do, for example, print, and then we'll say fruit, and then we'll give it like a position, like where we would want it to be printed. Okay, let's try this first. Let's run our code our usual way. All right, so the first one, this index, mind you, when it comes to Python and most programming languages, we start counting from 0. So the first fruit here wouldn't be counted as 1, but rather 0. Okay, so this is in the position 0, and we could print, let's say, in the position 2, and that would be our apples. Okay, so we have apples at position 2, so 0, 1, and 2. Yeah. So if we have like, let's imagine us having like 100 of these fruits. Do you think it's very advisable to like go through all of them this way or print them this way? No. And that is an example why we'll need our for loop. So we'll say for fruit, referring to each fruit in the list, in fruits. Okay, for fruit in fruit, what should we do? Let's say print and then fruit. Okay, so this will iterate through all the fruits. Instead of us doing this will iterate through all the fruits and we'll get all our fruits. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. So you see we have kiwi, grapes, apples, kiwi, grapes, apples. So with less than a line, like with less than, yeah, practically like a line of code, right? We have all our fruits printed out. So imagine having to like write all of them manually, like the way we were doing by referring to their index. That would be too tedious, okay? And that's not how things are normally done, but rather through looping, okay? So loops are used for iterating through like a list or a sequence. It could be strings, it could be ranges, but loops are used for, so we say used for iterating through sequences. Okay, so that's it, like for the for loop. And then we have another one known as the while loop. So let's create a variable called count, and I'll explain in a minute while we have it. So we have count, and we'll put in here the keyword while, and then we'll just say count is okay. So I'll explain in a minute what I'm doing. So let's say counting. Okay, so we're saying that we have a variable called count, all right? And let's go ahead, for example, now and clear our terminal. Okay, so good. We have a variable called count, okay? So we say while count is less than 3, all right? Print this counting and then the count, like the number that will be like added, because we said each time each time it loops through, like there should be one added to like the number until it reaches 3. So let's see what happens here. Okay, so we see it. We have first it goes, it checks, it sees that the count is 0, it goes ahead and prints the count, right? Counting, and then what is the value? The first value is 0, okay? And then it takes it adds 1 to it. And then now count is now 1, okay? Count is now 1. And then it's still less than 3. So it prints this line again, and then counting is now 1, right? And then it adds 1 to the 1, which makes it 2, which is still also less than 3, okay? So it goes and counts, and it adds, it looks and sees that count is still less than 3, and then finally it prints counting 2. Okay, so that is a while loop. So it's the while loop, for example, right? It checks if a condition has been met or not. So it executes until the condition is false. All right. If the condition hasn't been met, like it will still continue looping. All right. So a very important thing to do in programming is to be able to reuse your code. And in Python, we have functions for that. All right. So for you to write functions in Python, you need the def keyword. Okay. And then you give it a name. Let's say in this case, we want to call it greet. All right. So this function is in charge of greeting people. Okay. And we then use the return keyword. All right. And then we'll say, let's use the F string from before. Do you remember the F string? We don't necessarily have to have a print statement before we use the F. We could use it like this as well. And then say hello, and then curly braces, I will say name. So let's say an input. Let's create user username. Let's just say. And then we'll say input. You remember the input? And then we'll have another print statement here. And then the name of the person, okay? Username, all right? Python code. All right, so it says what is your name? Let's just say Lucas. And it says hello, Lucas. So let's explain what happened here. We have a function, this function, and this function is responsible. This is not part of the function, okay? So this is just like an input on its own. All right. So we have this function here, this dev greet, and it returns hello. Okay, so we get the name of our user here, and then want to use the greet function on the name our user gave us. All right. So we could do this like multiple times. We could even use it like differently. We could just say print greet, and then maybe someone else. Let's say Alex. Doesn't have to be like the user name or whatever we got from our input. It could just be like another name or another person called Alice. So let's see. What is your name? Let's just say Frederick Nielsen. Let's just say that. So you see, it says hello Frederick Nielsen and then hello Alice. If the action is going to be repeated, why not use a function? Believe it or not, guys, you have enough skills to start building great applications. Now, there is so much more we need to touch on when it comes to Python, but these are the basics. These are things you need to master and understand. I want you to just understand that every little thing you do and every little effort you put in is important. So don't look down on yourself, don't underestimate your effort, don't feel like you're not savvy enough. So guys, that's it for this video. I'm so glad, and I hope to see you in the more detailed videos that I'll be doing for each of the topics that we touched on in this video. Thank you so much. Until then, bye.